It was a move in the right direction for the Washington Wizards to move on from Bradley Beal and usher in a new era around some exciting young talent. They were able to build towards a young core of players like Deni Advijia, Daniel Gafford, Atlantic Kuzma, and drafted Corey Kispert. This offseason, seeing them bring in the likes of Tyus Jones and Jordan Poole, whom was leaving a complicated situation with the Warriors, in which things were good until they weren't anymore. Also, they were able to snatch up Victor Wembanyama's French teammate in Bilal Coulibaly, who projects to have a lot of upside and I think can come in right away and make an impact, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But overall, there's a lot to like, and it can be an interesting blend of talent. As far as where they stand in the East, I'm not expecting too much from them, especially not this season, because they just don't have that piece, I believe, that can carry them over the edge. I believe although you can have a very talented team, you still can be missing key ingredients to be able to compete, especially in the tough and super competitive National Basketball Association. This brings me to Jordan Poole. A lot of people have a lot of polarizing takes to who Jordan Poole is as a player. He has come a long way and has had one of the more impressive stories in the NBA amongst young up-and-coming talent. He was instrumental in bringing Golden State their most recent title as some of their core members had begun to age. He was able to provide a spark and carry a large workload in terms of generating offense. This brought a lot of attention and excitement around his game, and now that he has moved on to a new team, people are expecting a lot from him, and rightfully so. How I see it playing out with the Wizards team is they will be very interesting offensively, and when they are on, they will blow you out of the water. But when they come back to reality, their defense won't be able to keep them afloat to win a lot of games. Now they do have some interesting defensive pieces, like Gafford being an athletic rim protecting big. I just mentioned Coulibaly, and then they have Deni Advijia. He is very underrated, especially as an athlete, and that translates to the defensive side of the ball. Now him and Poole recently went viral, and we don't know the full context and only what we can interpret from the video, but people seem to think Deni was angry at Poole's tendency to kind of be a one-man show. The problem with that is you can be like, Deni needs to pipe down and let Poole work, but when players feel like they aren't getting adequate shots, that can affect their effort on the defensive side of the ball, and ultimately that could sink any success for the team this season.
There's obviously been, much conversation about Draymond, going back to obviously the preseason incident. Even postseason, they were pretty adamant that they felt like it really impacted what went on last season. What is your just general perspective on how much of an impact the Draymond punch had on last season, and how is it left now with him and them?
Yeah, I mean, we're in Washington now. Playing with Kuz, great duo. Being able to really flourish, expand your game, and help, like I said, a new team, lead an entire group of guys. It's a challenge that we're up for. We got a new front office and a lot of people that's invested. Everybody is locked in, wants to be here, start something that we can have that can be special.
I don't just hit people. Like, I've been in this league 11 years. I ain't just hit nobody. You know what I'm saying? And so dialogue, happens, and dialogue happens over the course of time. You know what I'm saying? Like, you usually ain't just triggered by something like that fast,
Right.
to that degree. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is a team. You know what I'm saying? Like, ain't nobody on my team triggering me, in an instant. And so dialogue, of course, happens over time. And, like I said, Cam's stuff wasn't accurate, but we know stuff that you don't say amongst men. You know what I'm saying? We know, things that you have to stand on. And, I as I've admitted before, I was wrong in the way I handled it. For the situation.
Continuing with Jordan Poole and his dynamics fitting in within a team, a lot of that is what we seen as far as the incident with Draymond Green fiasco. That was one of the most peculiar incidents in recent NBA history, but who knows what was actually said. Apparently there might have been some insults being thrown around, but a lot of people seem to think it's more so about Jordan Poole and accepting his role within the team dynamic. Now, obviously, you have a championship pedigree, or not even that, but a dynastic pedigree team with the Golden State Warriors. So when you are on a team like that, you are kind of expected to go along with the program. Apparently, Poole didn't actually want to do that, and then the clashes began. So Jordan Poole is coming to this team finally getting what he wants, and that is to be the man on a team and be able to play his game freely without being on a tight leash. I can honestly see his role being eerily similar to the Bradley Beal role for this Wizard squad the last few years. A lot of off-ball activity coming off screens and dribble handoffs, but also I see them putting the ball in his hands a lot more and let him try to create points for his teammates. He actually doesn't get enough credit for his ability to distribute the ball and how much of a willing passer he actually is. From what I've seen, he actually passes the majority of the time he tries to get downhill. The problem comes in where he rarely gets to get downhill because he usually is coming off of screens and handoffs for threes or hitting step backs and pull-up jumpers. For this team to make a step forward, they would need him to really be consistent, putting pressure on the defense and forcing them to overreact to what he is doing. Poole will be returning to Golden State on December 22nd, and it will be interesting to see if he's able to show this new development to his game on his former squad.
You and Kyle Kuzma had a little back. Actually, it wasn't even a back and forth. He sort of came at you, and you said they're not trying to play winning basketball. He responds on Twitter. The funny thing is, they don't play winning basketball. But you didn't do anything else on Twitter. Do you have a response now that it's been some time?
Oh, man. Didn't I just say I was petty?
Yeah, I know. Yes, please.
So here's the thing, right? And obviously, I spent some time in D.C. with Kuz. What's that thing Draymond just said where he said, insecurity is loud?
Yep.
Right? So basically, here's what happened, right? We lost to them. I was on the Mavericks. And obviously, we have a MVP caliber guy, and we're trying to be a championship caliber team. Just went to the Western Conference Finals, et cetera, et cetera. So I make a statement about, we need to be better, understanding the culture and how games are kind of played in D.C. and saying, that's an unacceptable loss in that fashion. He decides to respond because I guess he felt like it was a shot at him. And I wanted to respond. My agent told me to stand down, that we had, bigger fish to fry, things to do, get to the playoffs, et cetera, et cetera. But, now I'm not in that environment. I'm in the playoffs. He's not. And, to address, no, I'm just saying, to address the socialite, right? Like, there's a lot of guys in the NBA that really pour their heart and soul into basketball, are willing to do whatever it takes to win. There are a lot of guys that have different things that drive them and motivate them. I think if we look at, him and the way he approaches life, fame, all that stuff, that we could see that, his priorities tend to vary, right? Like, that's why he dressed the way he does. He, approaches basketball the way he does, the comments he makes. And like I said with the Draymond quote, insecurity is loud. Like, you know that you're there, shooting shots to try to get a contract. You're probably not even a third star really on a good team, because if you were, the Lakers would have kept you, right? Part of the reason you left was to try to make more money. Like, these are all things that are facts.
You may want to mark your calendars for November 12th because it will be the first time we get Kuzma versus Dinwiddie since they went public with their beef. Wizards will be heading to Brooklyn to face off against Dinwiddie's squad, but he isn't alone. Ben Simmons has been really trying to return back to his star form, and Mikal Bridges is making sure he proves that last year wasn't a fluke after being dealt to Brooklyn from Phoenix. This really has to be a game where Kuzma takes the lead for the Wizards, and I believe Kuzma will have to show his consistency, at least being the second option, because that is what a lot of Kuzma supporters have wanted for his career all along. Going back to his days with the Lakers, when he was on that deep squad of young talent, people were saying it was Kuz who was the best of all of them. So this would be a perfect time while all eyes are on this matchup for Kuz to really show up and show out. That's it for this one, guys. Glad I could hold your attention for this long. If you enjoyed the segment, be sure to subscribe to the channel as we cover what's going on in the entire basketball landscape and the stories associated with it. Without further ado, peace.